anything I know about Indigenous housing needs and solutions really has come from my simply asking people what the challenges are, what they're looking for, and what types of solutions would be in order. And interestingly, I have found so much consistency in meeting with groups over most of my visits here that there are a couple of things. First, existing Aboriginal housing is not holding up well. And the good news is there is a tremendous approach that's been developed in Australia, and in fact that we've borrowed from in some of our work in the United States. A group called Health Habitat has worked throughout the country in both urban and remote Indigenous communities to help community members understand how to bring the housing code standards of their homes up to appropriate levels in 9 critical areas of health in terms of hot water, electricity, separation of food, waste, basically how to make a healthy home environment. And the way Health Habitat works is that they train local people to both diagnose the gaps in their homes and to correct all of the non-technical problems and then to maintain the standard of housing. Health Habitat will bring in the licensed plumbers, electricians to correct those problems that are beyond the skill level of local people. So that approach, I think, is absolutely essential for South Australia and other states and territories to completely embrace, just to bring up the existing standard of Indigenous housing in urban as well as remote settings, using these health principles and integrating the notion that local people can be trained to understand their homes and to maintain them with that kind of investment of time. And so that's number one, just roll out across the country the Health Habitat standards and just commit to bringing all Aboriginal housing up to a decent health standard. Secondly, what I hear consistently is that there is a need for a different type of home, that the Aboriginal family groups and the movement patterns result in, at times, households being overloaded with visiting family members and having failure around the kitchen, the bath, and even issues of privacy, being very hard to manage with visiting family members. And that this could be very creatively and happily solved if there was more variety to the housing design. And what any number of groups I've met with have described has been, interestingly, almost the same thing. Basically a home where the home is thought of as the whole property, where the outdoor areas are part of the design, where there are verandas, where there are additional toilets, additional kitchens. And these are all very simple and not expensive solutions. Additional sleeping areas that can be sort of added or activated at various times depending on the size of the household. And in just more creative ways of thinking about housing design, that a lot of the pressures that families are under and that their housing is under could be addressed. And so there's just a great, I think, hunger for innovation in design that is very, very clear and similarly perceived by Indigenous families. And so moving in the direction of greater variety to housing design that actually takes into account the kinds of family dynamics, as well as raising the standard of existing housing, are, I think, the two critical issues that resonate in all of my conversations with Indigenous people. I believe now that the national government has made this a priority and put additional federal resources into Aboriginal housing. I believe it's up to the states to actually articulate how the money will be spent. I would hope that that these very available solutions, using the Health Habitat principles, listening to this new conversation about housing design to be more responsive to family movement patterns, that will guide state policy here in South Australia and elsewhere. The government has to be a channel for the funds. I think that listening to and working with communities to sort of empower them with the jobs that can be created, the expertise to maintain the properties once they're improved or built, that kind of virtuous circle of effort, whether it needs to be led by government or simply resourced by government, I really would love to see this become a centerpiece of what South Australia takes on in the next year or two, as far as being a national leader in showing the way to raising the standards creatively, imaginatively, with a high degree of quality of Indigenous housing.